ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting episode of Loss of Lieutenant. We are marking I think Nick might know the name of this, but like our second half-century episode. Is there a special name for 150?
I have no idea.
Fuck, okay.
I apologize.
If anyone was going to know, it would be Nick.
Oh, that's what I said. So we are doing 150th episode today on Vision Control, the Back to Basic episode. Before we get into the main content of today, we do have our announcements, the upcoming events. Jordan, hit us up.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, Burn City Brawl 2025 is upon us from the 13th to the 14th of September at the Gaming Arena in Coburg, Victoria. Tickets are currently $80, with the mission lineup being Hammer of Dawn, which is a custom mission submitted in the Loss of Lieutenant package last year by yours truly, B-Pong, Evacuation, Firefight, and Capture and Protect. It's going to be a great event. Loss of Lieutenant are going to be doing a stream as well at the event. So you'll be able to watch one game per round live over on YouTube, I believe, is where we're going to be doing it. And then on from that, we have the Mothball Incident, which is the new unofficial Infinity Global campaign. You've probably seen some of the Facebook posts that they've been doing that they've been actually pretty funny when I've had the chance to read a few of them. This is going from the 18th of July to August 17th. The link will be in the description of the episode. And then we also have the new Infinity Gamer Mission Competition. They are running a new mission competition. They're helping the community assemble a library of custom missions to spice up tournaments, because what everyone basically needs when we're most of the way through an IS season is something a little more interesting than, I guess we're going to run Acquisition for the 4th time this year. The submission info is on the Infinity Gamer YouTube channel. The link will be in the description. I believe Loss of Lieutenant has already submitted both Supply Raid and Hammer of Dawn, to the best of my knowledge.
If Nick did, I haven't done yet.
I have not submitted it yet.
No, I haven't submitted anything, but I will submit submissions.
Okay. And before we get into the main topic of today's episode, we have a couple of questions for the audience about vision control. How have the smoke grenade ranged nerfs affected your use of them? And do you think vision control is currently in a good place in Infinity? Spoilers, I fucking think so. And because we didn't do this earlier, tonight I am joined by fellow co-host Nick.
Hello.
And Tristan.
Hello.
We're a professional podcast.
Absolutely.
Nick, take us away. Please, why are we talking about vision control?
So, we've got vision control. It's one of the basic concepts in Infinity. We've got smoke, eclipse, and white noise. Basically, they let you sculpt the line of fire on the board. So when the terrain doesn't necessarily meet your needs, you can create temporary lines of fire blocks. Mastery Vision Control allows you to have more consistency in your game and be more resistant to luck, because you can't lose a face-to-face roll that you don't take. So if you can block the line of fire, cover your advance, you can engage with a scenario without having to engage with your opponent.
That's my favorite thing to do, boys. I don't want to engage with my opponent. You do your own thing. I'm here to roll some dice on some objectives and smash my head into some buttons.
It's nice that we finally capture the whole community with this topic as well. It used to be the Pano players would sit over in their corner and they'd go, "Oh, technically we have Eclipse grenades with that fucking random
the BS10, the BS10
Eclipse grenade launcher." But no, with Disco Ballers being introduced in this edition, every faction I think now has access to the best form of vision control. Without being able to smudge.
That's interesting. Is there a faction that doesn't get Disco Ballers?
Disco Ballers or smoke of some description.
Right. Ariadna obviously doesn't get Disco Ballers, but
no,
they're smokers.
Some factions have them as a token gesture to say that they got them, but they're not in a practical place.
Yeah. It is quite a limited tool still. Most factions will only get 2 or 3 max. 3 is probably the max a faction will get. And usually there's one of those that's the big outlier that's either the link glue or whatever like that, and that's the one you take 2 or 3 of.
Yeah. the really efficient ones are like pretty rare, but like everyone now has access to reasonable vision control of some description, be it through smoke grenades or through disco balls now.
Yes. Yep.
Absolutely.
Now, not all factions engage with vision control equally. Some factions, for instance, like Ariadna, Hack, Toha, rely more on their vision control to really hit that peak gameplay. It integrates more into how they engage with the board than other factions.
Yeah. Kev's asked a really good question in terms of what we think is the best disco baller in the game. I think the short list for that is the Hwarang in White Banner, the Sogarat in Morats, and probably like the Tanko.
Yeah, I was going to say the Tanko. In
and,
like the context of Oban, I think the Tanko.
Yeah. And maybe like the Fennec.
Fennec is
Forward Observer.
In a vacuum, the Fennec is busted. Like the Fennec is number one by far.
In a vacuum.
There's also the little shout out of the Asawira Disco Baller. That's a BS14 Disco Baller.
True.
Yes.
Which is very, very good, but you obviously pay for it. It's like 32 points or something like that.
Well, yeah, because you're spending the points on a fucking Asawira.
It's still an Asawira.
You do get an Asawira, but that is probably, I think it's the only BS14 Disco Baller in the game.
It's like someone going, yeah, I bought this new car and I got like a free cookie with it. It was great.
I got floor mats.
I got floor mats.
Woo. So yeah, so like Ariadna is sitting there going, your first kind of strategy is how can I use my smoke? Whereas if you're playing Kestrel, you're going, I've tried everything. My last my last Port of Storm is like, maybe I'll throw a Disco Baller and just ignore it after I've tried everything else. All right.
You are correct, Kevin. It appears Vanilla Combined Army don't have a Disco Baller.
Fuck you, Vanilla Combined. God, they're shit.
Not all sectorals or vanillas have access to Disco Ballers.
That's
true. But all factions as a whole have access to Disco Balls, I believe.
Actually,
Shadzvasti do have Disco Balls, yeah.
On that note, actually, I'm going to derail for a tiny second here. I'm so sorry. Because Nick brought up Sograts. Like, I was at work walking around the car park, and I had a thought where I'm like, man, you know, with how good Sograts are in N5, maybe they might be like an unexplored kind of aspect that could really fit now into Vanilla Combined where they couldn't before because the tags were better in Combined. And then I'm like, let's go have a quick look. I'm like, oh no, CB was smarter than me. They removed Sograts at the start of N5. Fuck! I had a whole moment. I was like so proud of myself for a second.
Okay. So what is vision control? Well, primarily, it's to remove line of fire, denying your opponent's potential to ARO. Whether that ARO is a long-range shot, whether it's a dodge, whether it's them throwing their own smoke, or putting down deployable equipment. Doesn't matter, it stops them from AROing. And the kind of trade-off for this is, while being lower risk, there is a lower reward. So you, in general, to deal with a situation, you're going to spend more orders throwing smoke than if you're shooting, but you're not generally you're not face-to-facing anyone with your smoke, and it's not permanently dealing with the situation, it's more a temporary solution.
It's allowing you to bypass what your opponent has put in place to stop you. And while they're not getting to use those tools to actually kill the thing they want to kill, they are getting use out of those tools in that they're forcing you to spend orders putting down smoke, Eclipse, Disco Ballers in order to get around them. So it's a push-pull, risk-reward investment type deal.
There are definitely a lot of players out there that would love for you to spend 5 orders throwing smoke to avoid a couple ARO pieces. Absolutely.
Well, also, like, where it's less risk because you can't lose a face-to-face roll if you don't take it, but you also can't win a face-to-face roll if you don't take it. So, in the end, your opponent's ARO is still going to be there at the end of your turn to be an active piece on their turn and an ARO on your next turn.
Absolutely. All right. Jordan, this is your favorite because, my God, I still remember the combined army days.
What was I doing in the combined army?
Just using smoke really well.
Oh, sure. So I'm just like, I mean, yeah, I played Datarazzi. They're pretty good.
Yeah, you know.
Pretty good in N4. So smoke is probably the most ubiquitous, most well-known type of vision control. They come in the form of smoke grenades and smoke grenade launchers. The difference being smoke grenades are used off of your fizz. Smoke grenade launchers are based off of your BS. Neither have a positive range band now. That used to be one of the big distinctions between the two. They are the cheapest and most plentiful vision controllers. They tend to come on a lot of cheap warband type units. Think your Datarazzi's, your Varangian Guard type models, Ermendinos. So you can get it very... Yeah, I'll get... Yarn-yarns, yep. Fucking fat yarn-yarns. They have the most direct and obvious counter in the form of MSV 1, 2, and 3. And they also are most easily used as an offensive tool because of that, with the infamous get neg 6 to bitch through the old smoke with my MSV trooper. And they provide access to smoke shooting. The particularly despicable aspect of that being with MSV3, where you'll just discover shooting camo markers through smoke.
100%. All right, Nick.
Living your best life.
Well, next up on the vision control, we have Eclipse. So again, Eclipse grenades and the very rare Eclipse grenade launcher.
Are there any of those still in the game?
I had to do a search. It still exists.
Let me guess.
Somewhere.
Oh my God.
It's in Bakunin.
I didn't actually find out where. I just told Army to give me all the weapons currently available in every mod of the game, and Eclipse grenade launcher existed on that list. So it is somewhere.
It is somewhere.
It's probably like a Toha model or something.
Well, speaking of which, Toha have Mirror Ball, so Eclipse comes in more flavors than just grenades. Additionally, we have Disco Balls now, and the new revised escape system is Eclipse. Probably not the most tactical way to put a vision control on the board, but it's
the funniest.
Yes, yes.
It is the funniest.
So, Eclipse is going to block line of fire to all models. There are no counters to it, other than look around it and not through it. It's far less plentiful and cheap than smoke, but there are no hard counters to it. So it is more productive than smoke unless you are trying to abuse smoke shooting.
It is definitely I can't think of many units outside of maybe Toha where you can get Eclipse for maybe less than 20 points. I feel like most Eclipse has been culled quite a lot coming into N5.
It got destroyed.
It got
because of
destroyed.
Steel Phalanx.
Steel Phalanx only has one source of Eclipse now, and that's on a 30-point model.
Yeah, well, it was because there was also stuff like some of the random mercenaries in Steel Phalanx. Like Hippolyta was in 8 different sectorals, it felt like, and she had Eclipse in all of them, but now she's just got smoke grenades.
In place of that, though, as we discussed before, we now get Disco Ballers. And if you're playing Pano in some variety and you get Phoenix, then you get 12-point BS12 Disco Ballers that do have positive...
13 points.
13? Something like 13. That do have positive range bands and will land a Disco Baller on a 15 up to 16 inches, which is nuts. And they are 13 points. And a lot of factions, like you were saying, White Banner, Oban, will get Disco Ballers on kind of sub 20-point units, like 16 through 20.
It is kind of neat with units getting Disco Ballers, where you can kind of see a little bit of maybe CB's design philosophy with them, where it was here are the cheap warband-esque replacement Disco Ball units, and here are your moderately expensive units where we've given them a Disco Baller just as an extra thing to have to make that cost worth it. That's stuff like your Boigs, Moangs, Soggarats, just some of these random units that just got Disco Ballers, and you're all right, I don't know why it's a S5 40-something point model, and he's just hocking out Disco Balls for fun.
Well, you kind of split it up into models that use them more like grenade launchers and models that use it more like grenades. So
Yeah.
we're talking about your war bands or your effective war bands with like tankos with disco ballers. They're moving up the field and using that to cover their own advance. Versus like the Hwoarang, the Sogarat, they're using them to fire up the table and cover someone else's.
Yep. And the interesting thing is that disco ballers are technically reusable if your opponent decides not to destroy the token that is placed down, which also has the unlikely side effect of not being able to aero smoke dodge with a disco baller.
Which was something that I think everyone has tried to do. They've either tried to do it or they have asked the question during a game of Infinity.
They definitely asked the question.
It's absolutely worth asking. Just to clarify, disco balls, the zero vis zone does not go down until the resolution phase of the order, which means that it is never a face-to-face roll.
Yep. All right, moving on to the greatest and best versions of vision control. It is white noise. It is the coolest. It is found, I want to say, I think Nick's written almost exclusively, but I think it is exclusively on hacking devices.
I don't think I've seen hacking device upgrade white noise yet.
It exists.
Ooh.
Does it?
It's in Onyx.
Oh, not Kernel. Is it Kernel?
It's Kernel.
Yeah.
Really?
Here's a regular hacking. Here's a killer hacking device.
It's a killer hacker upgrade white noise.
Nice.
And it's fucking. It's.
Ooh. Oh, Jordan, you've disappeared for me.
It's always combined armor.
Oh, you're back. All right, go again.
That was weird. It's always fucking combined army that have the weird fucking hacking devices. Always.
That stems back to like N2.
Yeah, like N3, N2.
Yep. So, white noise is exclusively from hackers, mostly from hacking device pluses. Apparently, there's one that isn't. And it is going to block line of fire to models with multispectral visors and or the marksmanship rule, either naturally or from an Evo hacker. This means that every other unit that doesn't have MSV or marksmanship is going to be able to see straight through it and shoot you in the face. But it means it, I would say, is the most aggressive form of vision control because it's used exclusively for either killing a MSV marksmanship aero piece or just to simply block line of fire to those units. You can use it like that, but I think most of the time people are using it to get that neg6 onto that MSV piece.
Pretty
One
much
advantage,
exclusively.
because you can use it through a repeater, you can place it more tactically just to completely block off an aero model that has MSV or marksmanship from activating that turn, basically.
Yes. So it is one of the only types of vision control that you're going to be able to use through, like, basically I can be on one corner of the table and use a repeater to put it on another corner of the table.
Yes.
So you can apply it from your deployment zone nearly everywhere if you have the repeater coverage. But in saying that, it is also the least applicable to the most amount of models. And it's exclusively an active turn thing. You'll never see white noise reactively.
There's no way to aero it.
Yep.
Yeah, but it doesn't have that program capability, right?
No.
No, it doesn't.
I think it's a whole order. I don't know. I could be pulling out my
I believe
ass.
so, but
it's
I
active.
Don't use it enough.
It's only
I'd
active.
have to check.
I don't. I think I'm wrong about that. I think it is a short scope.
There are some weird like rules minutia with like vision control. Like all of them have to be placed like wholly within your zone of control, except for mirror ball, which can be placed right on the edge of it.
Yep.
Like there are just some weird, funky rules in terms of like how the different types of vision control interact, and you can't just blanket rule in your head for them. The corner cases do weirdly come up.
Yes. So white noise is the whole template has to be within the hacking area that you're putting it down. Whereas with Smoke, Eclipse, Disco Bowlers, they're just, you're putting down the small token. That's the point in which you're measuring to, and then the smoke comes out from around that.
Yes, sir.
Alrighty.
Speaking of which,
Hey.
general rules for placing vision control. So, as noted, this does not include Toha because they have their own special rules. And white noise is also different because it has to be placed as a template, not as a point. Anyhow, for normal vision control, you start by picking a point. This can be another model, which makes a normal BS attack. You can, such as a normal BS attack, you can pick a point on the table within line of fire if you're useless, which almost all of them do have. Or you can pick a point on the table outside of your line of fire if you have spec fire. Once you have landed it, this is the part that can catch people out, and you have to visualize it as it spreads and fills the area. From the center point, the cloud expands horizontally first, stopping whenever it hits terrain or the edge of the template. At that point, it then expands upward as a column, with chunks taken out of it for wherever it hit terrain while expanding horizontally.
It doesn't expand downwards, right?
It only expands upward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Additionally, when it expands upward, if it hits terrain, similarly, it stops. However, there's no limit, so if it doesn't hit terrain, it just goes infinitely.
Yeah, and that's kind of the opposite of what like a splash template does, where
Yes.
they're both circular templates of a nature, but the splash template will kind of go like around a corner kind of in a diagonal line, whereas Smoke will just hit it and go straight up.
Smoke is a column, whereas impact templates are a sphere.
Yep.
Something. Art is an explosion.
Yes.
All right, Nick.
Okay, so before we delve into all the fun ways you can use vision control, there is one interaction in the game that is more complicated than it seems, but still is difficult to not get caught up on at times. And that's multispectral visor 1 and smoke. So, whereas multispectral visor 2 and 3, you just ignore the zero vis zone. Multispectral visor 1, you kind of ignore the zero vis zone. So,
there are tiers of ignoring the zero vis zone.
yes. Basically, it reduces your penalty by 3. So that means if you have mimetism 3, it goes down to 0. Mimetism 6 goes down to 3. Low visibility is normally a -3. So that goes down to a -0 if you have MSV. Poor visibility is normally a -6. So it goes down to a -3 if you have MSV1. And then the one that breaks that rule immediately, 0 visibility, normally is no line of fire. With an MSV1, you can see through it, but you have a -6 modifier.
Yeah.
The other benefit of multispectral visor 1, because you can draw line of fire through smoke, rolls against smoke ammunition are not face-to-face. Similarly to with MSV 2 and 3, because you can see through the smoke, it doesn't matter if they get the smoke down faster than you.
Yep.
So where people will tend to get tripped up with MSV1 through smoke is they will shoot a thing through smoke, the opponent won't shoot them back, and they will assume that means they go to, it's a -3 through the smoke cloud. That isn't how it works. The way it works is that MSV1 turns the 0 vis zone into a poor visibility zone. So
No.
instead of needing...
No, it does. So,
what? Doesn't it?
MSV1 does not change the 0 vis zone to a poor vis. That's one of the problems that comes up, because they're So it changes the modifier of the 0 vis to allow line of fire at a -6.
Yeah, and then if they shoot you back, it then makes
That's
it.
Yes.
Then it turns it into the lower
It
one,
doesn't
right?
it doesn't matter if you have MSV or not. If you're targeted by a BS attack through a 0 vis zone, it turns into a poor vis zone.
Yeah, poor vis zone.
yes.
Needlessly complicated.
Oh, I typoed that slide. Oops. So yes, if this is where it gets complicated because there are multiple ways to get a -6 modifier, and some of them are affected by MSC1 and some aren't. If someone targets you through a 0 vis zone, it now becomes a poor visibility zone, which means that, for instance, if without MSV1, someone shoots you through a 0 vis zone, you can now see back, it's just a -6 because it's effectively poor vis. If you have MSV1, it now goes down to a -3 because it's a poor vis zone, not a 0 vis zone. Which leads to the lovely situation where an active turn model with MSV1 shoots another model through a 0 vis zone. Currently, they're at a -6. If the opponent targets them back with a BS attack, they have now made it a poor vis zone because the model with MSV has been targeted by a BS attack through the 0 vis. Now being a poor vis with MSV1, it's a -3.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, simple.
Very simple. I love explaining this to new players.
Yes. I think the
Oh,
You can never
problem
explain it right.
just to finish your thought,
Yeah.
if that model decides to dodge, it is not turned into a poor vis zone. It is still a 0 vis zone, and the MSV1 model is still at a -6.
Yes.
And the person dodging is not dodging at -6,
No,
which is
absolutely.
one that also comes up.
Yes. Technically, if you get shot through smoke, there is no -3 mod to your dodge for not being in line of fire.
Because you are in line of fire.
You are.
Because you can draw a line of fire.
Because the 0 vis zone has now become a for you because you shot through.
Infinity is really easy to understand. There's never been a truly rule-abiding game of Infinity played before.
And I'm not sure if it's on the next slide. There we go.
Yep.
You can just
So-
ignore all of it now.
Yep. On top of this, we'll throw in 6th Sense just because that also interacts with 0 vis zones. If a model with 6th Sense is targeted by a BS attack through a 0 vis zone, they ignore the -6 modifier for the resulting.
Yep. Cool.
Fuck N4 Sixth Sense.
Yes. So we will not get into the what about a model with MSV1 and 6th Sense? Nope. We're just going to move on.
All right. Cool. Oh, we have examples.
So-
we kind of went through the
Oh,
examples.
I think we covered these.
We did.
Yeah, we
we
sort of
did. We
covered this.
preempted these. So, but you can look on at the screen if you want. If you want to remind, if you're more a visual reader kind of learner, have a look. Boom. All right. Jordan, in your expert opinion, what is the purpose of vision control?
So there are two main purposes. The most important one, however, is the simplest one. I don't want to deal with my opponent's powerful ARO beast. You want to block the line of fire from their model. You want to avoid engaging with that particular model to do scenario instead of trying to get into a needless shit fight. It allows you to advance and reposition your units without the risk of losing them to a random ARO. And in reactive, smoke dodging is just a well-known tactic to avoid things being targeted and killed.
For the reactive, it's not necessarily just the model that has the smoke. So one of the best examples I've seen used was, of course, in round 5 of a 2-day tournament where I
Hmm.
played Luke. Because that's a thing. We just play each other in round 5 of tournaments.
Yep.
For Mega Turret, it was bottom of 3, and I was trying to figure out how to get the gun I wanted onto his Mega Turret. And he had set it up such that I had to deal with McMurra, who was in the way. And as soon as McMurra got an ARO, he threw smoke onto the Mega Turret.
It's a
Which just
perfectly
ended the
balanced
game,
mission, guys.
which ended the game immediately because it did not matter if McMurrow lived or died, but he blocked off line of fire to the model I needed to shoot,
Yep.
and I couldn't shoot it. So, game.
Absolutely. And recently I've had Dante with his intruder have a Jaguar ARO, throw a smoke on the camo marker as the intruder, and I can't do anything to it because it's a camo marker and it's an MSV unit. So unless I have MSV and I want to try and discover it from yonkies away, and then he just shoots me back. But yeah, it's just an impenetrable ARO piece at that point.
Yep.
Cool. So Jordan, that was the first and most basic. The second one is the one you do to me a lot, where you kill everything.
To be fair, when I did it to you, I was using white noise. But yes, the second purpose of vision control: advantageous face-to-face rolls. Stack negative mods on your opponent's models and alter the sidelines to pick and choose optimal face-to-face engagements. You will not have a more satisfying feeling playing Infinity than putting down a smoke template and then just lining up your opponent's ARO pieces one after another.
Yep. Alrighty.
Okay.
So, we have it here. Gain advantageous face-to-face rolls. I think you read it word for word, Jordan.
So
I think what Jordan has said this in the past as well, that smoke shooting in N5 is stronger than it was in N4. Partially due to the lack of, well, the decrease in Sixth Sense, and probably partially due to just I won't say the decrease in overall BS mods, but even if you were smoke shooting a full link that didn't have Sixth Sense, they still potentially had +1, +2 BS, whereas that you don't get that anymore either. So generally, smoke shooting is very, very strong in N5.
One other thing you can do with this is not just try to stack mods, but pick and choose what models your opponent gets to use an arrow.
Yeah.
So if you have a model that's set up on Overwatch and your opponent has 2 or 3 models looking at it, if you want to use that as an active piece, you have 2 or 3 models that immediately arrow it.
Yeah.
If you toss smoke out, you can block the line of fire to all but one of those, and then engage them on fair terms.
One of the other things that is actually making smoke shooting better in N5 as well is just the general decrease in MSV ARO pieces. I don't know about you guys, but the MSV ARO pieces I used to see like dominate tables just aren't present in N5. It feels like almost entirely.
Yep.
So you're almost always getting that full neg6 benefit on people. And it's just, it just feels a lot better now than it did in the previous edition.
Kev says that'll come back round. I'm not too sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if it swings back a little bit, but the balance point has definitely shifted toward fewer of them because it's no longer a straight bonus. MSV comes with the risk because of the greater presence of albedo and white.
Well, yeah, now the riskless mod for that is just mimetism, which is why mimetism is so strong this edition, is that it doesn't have there is never a downside to having mimetism. You're never getting neg sixed because you have mimetism. But But yeah, everything else, like MSV is now able to be actively punished, which you really couldn't do in the previous edition, it felt like.
I think there's
Yeah.
potentially more of a swing towards 2 wound high armor ARO pieces versus MSV mimetism ARO pieces, purely because they seem more survivable and they might take more orders. Because no matter what, there's always going to be an opportunity for the opponent to put them on worse numbers. So you probably want the one that survives longer and is easier to revive. So things like Janissaries or something like that will do really well. Whereas things like Vidocs aren't super in fashion because they're 27 points for a wound. And the threat of 2 dice isn't the threat of 2 dice anymore. It's like, if you hit me, it's still 2 saves. I probably make 1. Even if I'm a 1 wound dude, I revive him and I try again. Whereas I could hit you twice, you're making 4 saves, he's deleted off the table. So the reward for the MSV ARO pieces isn't as high as it used to be, and the power isn't there either. Whereas the active turn pieces are still just as strong.
Or stronger.
Or stronger if you go for the Swiss Guard. All right. Another purpose of vision control is just consistent active and reactive face-to-face options. So if we go back to N4, one of the biggest problems with Steel Phalanx was they could always smoke dodge at their feet 2 dice on 16s or 17s. No matter what you threw at them, if you had your MSV ARO piece, they could have Eclipse, they just dump smoke at their feet. Nowadays, it's not as strong.
To clarify for any newer players, by smoke dodge, we mean throw smoke at your feet instead of rolling dodge.
It is a colloquial term in Infinity, the smoke dodge. It is technically
not an actual dodge.
It is a BS face-to-face roll. Or a BS attack, I should say, using your fizz stat. So generally, your smoke, unless they have BS attack -3, your smoke roll is always going to be the same no matter what. So you're coming up against your Swiss Guard Mim 6, surprise and BS attack -3, that'll pop you down. But apart from that, you're going to be on consistent numbers, actively or reactively. So if your opponent reveals a Noctifer or something like that, and you just have no chance of hitting them, smoke is still the same odds no matter what. As we talked about before. Oh, sorry, Jordan.
I mean, if your opponent's playing a Noctifer, you've sort of already won, but, you know, continue.
Yeah, no, blinks. I should have said a blink. The only exception to that is Disco Ballers, as they are basically like shooting a mine. It doesn't go active until the end of the order. There is potentially a benefit there, because since it's not face-to-face, you can put a smoke zone in front of an ARO piece while taking a shot, and you don't have to win that face-to-face to get that smoke down. All right. Vision control mistakes. Now,
I appreciate how upset Kevin has gotten at the term smodge. Do I get to move when I smoke dodge?
No. Never. All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of mistakes. Always throwing smoke with your warbands. So, you know, you impetuous forward, and then you go, I may as well throw a smoke. And then you go, oh, there's a guy there that I could have shot with my gun, but now there's a smoke there and I can't see him. I probably shouldn't have thrown that smoke grenade. So instead, dodge, move forward. You don't necessarily have to throw the smoke. It is a free smoke, but don't always treat it as being beneficial to you.
Yep. Yeah. Line of sight blocks work both ways. So putting too much smoke out there on your too early in your turn can reduce your options later on. Additionally, if you don't need it, walk 4 more inches.
Yep, 100%.
Or just throw it somewhere where it's not going to block line of fire. Like, I know in my experience with warbands, generally that second short skill smoke throws, because I don't want to walk them forward further than they've already walked them. So just think about, if you are needing to do that, where you're actually going to place that template.
From memory, warbands dodging now have to follow the impetuous rule and keep going forward. So potentially
Yes.
that throwing smoke maybe behind you or at the corner of the table is the only way to stop your guy from running out in the open.
100%.
Right. Relying too heavily on vision control for your game plan. So if you think disco ballers just solve all the problems, that can lead you to pulling a Lockie Summers and not taking any guns, which overall reduces the amount of options you have to deal with a problem. Sometimes
Or Val.
Or Val.
I think Val is a better example than Summer, honestly.
I think Val just takes so many punches to the face and keeps getting back up. It doesn't really matter. Smoke is a tool.
Sorry, what's worse? Lockie Summer not taking a gun or Val refusing to take an efficient gun? That's a question for the audience.
Val's is out of spite and Lockie's is just genius. It's just a different way to play the game. And Val's just like, no, fuck you. I'm going to win with the worst strategies.
I'm going to win by coordinating rocket fucking missile launches at AR.
I'm going to coordinate you with a HRL and 3 submachine guns.
Yeah, 3 submachine guns and a flash pulse.
And by some miracle, the flash pulse is the one that hits. And yeah. All right. So relying too heavily on vision control for your game plan. So it can lead you to reducing your overall toolbox, and sometimes, well, a lot of the time, smoke can be too much of a not order efficient solution. So you might be able to solve it, but if it takes you 9 orders to, press this one button, that might not be good. And even in BC,
especially now in N5 with the changes to smoke grenades where you no longer have that positive range band, you are just going to fail more frequently now.
Yes. If we use this lineup of BCB as an example, you could do 4 out of 5 of those missions with smoke grenades if you had 30 orders a turn, but you don't have 30 orders a turn. If you fail a couple of rolls in your first turn in Hammer of Dawn, you might not be able. You might lose that first turn straight off the bat. So you got to know when to use your smoke. You got to think in your mind, okay, I have 2 shots at this smoke. If I fail it, I can't get tilted and keep throwing it until I land it. I got to pivot to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I've written
I got to ask, what is the most orders you've spent getting a smoke down? I think mine was a Datarazzi. It was like 4 orders in Morats.
Out of spite, I have done it. I've done like whole groups worth.
Okay, yeah.
I think at the last tournament I was at, I went through, I want to say 7 or 8 orders to put smoke down. However, I only needed 1 order after that to to accomplish the objective.
Yeah.
So I was not burning orders that were going toward the objective. I was hoping I had orders left over to just shoot something because I could.
Yeah. No, yeah. Mine was with a Datarazzi. I think it was at BCB potentially. It was like 18, 19, 20. And I'm like, fuck this.
I have now seen someone spend 3 orders to reactivate a disco ball on 19s.
What? Holy
That's the best timeline. That is the best timeline.
Failing that twice is 1 in 400.
Yep.
Why do you know that off the top of your head?
What?
20 times 20.
Because it's 1 in 20 and 1 in 20.
Yeah, 20 times 20.
I don't know how basic math. I'm
1 in 400. If you fail it again, it's 1 in 8,000.
They succeeded the 3rd time.
Yeah, thank God. I've just wrote a little thing at the end here. Don't sacrifice models to place smoke unless the benefit outweighs the risks.
No,
go for it.
Yeah. So with this, smoke is only face to face if it goes in between you and the model that's shooting you. Which means that in both ARO and active turn, you can potentially have a model just take a free shot to put smoke out there without having to face the roll. There are many games where that is the correct decision, but that's usually turn 3.
Yep.
Where it's more important to not have that be a face-to-face roll and lose it from your opponent rolling slightly higher, then that model is worth if it just dies.
Yeah.
It's important to
And
note
again,
that we
just-
haven't mentioned so far, that you are technically considered being in smoke if even the slightest part of your model is in it. So it's not a whole base thing. This is just for the beginners. You can be a tiny little bit in the smoke and you are considered in the smoke.
Yeah, it's one of the best parts about that rule specifically. Like,
Mhm.
if it was anything other than that, it would just be so much worse and would be so much more open to like angle shooting and like sharking as well, where someone's like, oh no, like that's more than 50% of your base hanging out in smoke cloud. I think I actually see you type stuff.
Yeah.
It's super
much
clean.
easier that it's a hard limit at the edge of that smoke cloud,
Yeah.
both for line of fire and you're either touching it or you're not.
Yeah, it's just so good.
'Cause-
And also just Ivory brings up a good point as well, where the +3 range band going away means face-to-facing smoke is now just much riskier as an option, whereas previously it was like you were a lot of the time just on better numbers than your opponent to throw the smoke down.
Yep. 100%. It's why I think McMurrow is maybe a little underutilized in N5, because Fizz 16 smoke is way more valuable now.
Yeah. Yeah, Fizz 16 or like high Fizz or just like +1 special die is so valuable.
Yep.
Other than Assassins, where is he these days?
The Shat and Krigador.
Okay, so
3 factions. He got
for the most part, he's in Assassins these days.
I think
McMurrow
so. From what Dante tells me, he's an auto include in Krigador. And I suppose the Shat likes the cheap warbands
Yeah, but
or the cheaper
Krogador
regulars.
sucks.
Oh,
But
I'm more thinking of how much I've seen those two armies played in N5 so far.
that went straight over my head.
Krogador suck.
For people's mathematical knowledge, a smoke grenade with the special dice is about equivalent to how it was in N4, if that gives any perspective. All right, another vision control mistake: forgetting baggage for your disco ballers. If you've got a naked disco baller, you've only got 2 shots, and you can shoot those 2 shots in one order. If you roll badly, if you miss both, and you don't have baggage, you're out of luck.
Yeah, the +1 special die is so valuable on disco balls because getting 2 rolls at 2 dice is just so valuable with them.
Yep. And turn by turn, you get the free reloads. So a lot of the time, you have basically 2 disco balls a turn that you need. And that's really, really good for something that's basically equivalent of how Smoke worked previously. Being at +3 up to 16 is stronger than Smoke used to be in N4. If it's with the special dice, it's almost guaranteed, and you can even shoot beyond the 16 if you really want to. Because even then, you've got 2 dice and a special dice. If you only need to land 1, have you ever? I was going to say, have you guys ever done like a long bomb disco ball?
Yeah, one strategy I've used with the Sograts is to do the double shot, fire 1 at a long range band, and spend the special die on that, and fire 1 at the good range band, and just hard roll that one.
So Kev says, if the disco baller guy's moving out of the DZ, what's the point of baggage? Depending on what type of disco baller you have, you could be shooting those disco ballers to the midline and using something else to press buttons. You could be retreating at the end of the turn to within 8, because if that baggage bot's in your DZ, its range extends out of your DZ as well. I think the option of being able to reload the disco bowlers because they're disposable is a good practice.
Now, this isn't saying you should always take baggage with your disco ball.
No.
Dear God, please do not include a baggage bot in every list you write.
It's one of the things that with disco balls, you should be considering it at list writing and making the decision not to take it or to take it. not showing up at the table and going, this would have worked better with a baggage bot.
Mm.
Yeah, I think a lot of panelists nowadays are going to just throw a Fennec in, a Fennec forward observer with Disco Baller, and that Fennec can use its 2 shots in the first turn potentially. And then turn 3, something bad might have happened. You might have lost your main guns. That Disco Baller might be the chance for you to win the game. And if you don't have it, and your best gun is a combi rifle, you really wanted that baggage bot now. So I think it just gives options.
I think you need to find an excuse. Like, you need to find a good reason to include the 8-point baggage bot in the list. I think more frequently people are finding reasons to put Evo bots in lists.
Yes. Yeah.
Has been my experience, at least. Or if you're fucking combined army, you just play Icadrons and fucking do this.
If you're in combined, you already have 2 Icadrons.
Yeah, like, you're in combined, you have 2 Icadrons in the list already. It's like, it's like the best flash pulse bot in the game. Like,
all right, misunderstanding how smoke interacts with terrain. We talked about this before. I've had a bunch of people kind of throw smoke on a corner of a building and think it radiates down. I've had a bunch of people throw smoke behind a barricade and think it kind of goes over the top. I've gone, I'm very sorry, it doesn't work that way. And then they try and throw smoke over the barrier, and then I go, I'm very sorry, you can't actually see that point where you're throwing the smoke. You're going to have to throw it further beyond or to the side or something like that. So a good understanding of how smoke interacts with terrain, because it is different to template weapons, will mean that you don't necessarily make those mistakes when it matters.
Yeah.
And this is... sorry, go ahead.
I will say, though, this edition, more than any other, has had me in more arguments about someone being like, no, I can see this point. And I'm like, how? more than any edition, especially with pictures being what they are in N5, you'll get a fair bit of that, like, no, I can see this point. It's like, don't think you can. I think there's a building in the way.
Yeah. Knowing how smoke interacts with terrain, and especially stuff like small amounts of scatter that are on the ground. If you have a good understanding of that, you can both like avoid the mistakes, but that can also be a tactical tool to shape the smoke to be exactly what you want it to be. You can put it down so that if you put it, say, like your example was against a barricade. Well, you've now put down only half a smoke template, and that may be exactly what you want. You may want only a template, and by placing it next to a hard object, you can sculpt it so that it is the size you want.
100%. Alrighty. Relying on spec fire. This
next section goes out to no one in particular. What?
This might come down to more like Ariadna and Huck players. In Ariadna, if you're faced with an ARO piece and you don't want to sacrifice your Ermendino, or in doing so would force it to be a face-to-face roll, which is not favorable, and you're spec firing, it's just, it can suck orders quick. At best, on Phys 16, it's going to be on 13s, and most units, it's going to be on 10s because there's no positive range band. At best, it's a coin flip. At worst, you waste 3 or 4 orders before you realize that it's not going to work, but you're in too deep because you've taken too many orders to do this thing, and you don't have enough orders to pivot and do another thing.
This circles back to what we're talking about with warbands about overusing your smoke and blocking your lines of fire. When you're advancing and throwing smoke, make sure to leave lines of fire so that you can throw the next smoke in front of it. If you don't do that, you can run into situations where the only way to get smoke there is spec fire because you've blocked your own line of fire.
Yep. I've tons of situations where you throw smoke with McMurrow, you walk in the smoke, the thing's still a little bit too far away. I have to throw another smoke to get there. I'm throwing it on 10s. That's not great. I probably should have thrown it this way, so there's a line. So there's a tiny line of sight next to the smoke where I could throw it properly, that kind of thing. That is also just coming down to, as Nick said, like learning correct placement of smoke as well.
Yeah.
And for reference, that 10 spec fire, that's Burrow, that is the absolute best spec fired smoke you can get in the game.
That is peak. Most of the time you're on 7s or 8s.
Yeah, the best you can get is a 50-50. A good way that I've started trying to think about Specfire as a tool is it is something you do when you have orders in a group that you will not be spending on anything else.
Yep.
Like if you've gotten to like the bottom of your turn and you have like a group with a guy that has a grenade launcher, just throw some grenades. Like if you're not going to do those anything else with those orders, it's an entirely riskless move that you cannot be punished for.
100%. Underestimating your opponent's smoke. As Nick said before, when giving a model with smoke an ARO, consider all the places it can throw that smoke. And how important is smoke to your opponent's strategy? If I'm playing against an Ariadne player, let's say a new Ariadne player, and they've only taken 2 sources of smoke, getting rid of those 2 models might be more valuable to me than in a list where there's 4 smoke throwers, because I know how important smoke is to the overall game plan of these lists, and it's kind of a weak spot.
Think of it like counting your opponent's specialists at the start of the game.
Yes, that's a good way to think
You're
of it.
trying to look for what is a key resource that they have a limited quantity of that I can scalpel out most or all of them. And if their plan, if you can look across the table and go, they're relying on smoke or Eclipse or anything vision control to achieve scenario or put close combat models in place to kill my army, can I scalpel that out and force them into a game plan that they aren't prepared for?
Ivory puts it really succinctly in that you're trying to quantitatively hack away at their toolbox. You're basically, if the gun's the hammer, the smoke is, I don't know, the tape measure. I just make them shit up. But if you take shit out of their toolbox, they're going to be left with the worser options.
Yep.
Ooh, this is a doozy. Putting all your smoke in the same group. This comes down to options again. Like if smoke in both groups and smoke on both sides of the table or both sides of your deployment zone is just good strategy. If you have 4 smoke throwers, you want to split them up so that you have group 1 and group 2 on one side and group 1 and group 2 on the other side.
One other way that I've looked at breaking up smoke. So in Morats, a lot of times I've been running 3 Dotarazi. And depending on my opponent, sometimes I will deploy 1 Dotarazi on each side and hold 1 in reserve. And then whichever side I need more reliable smoke on, I'll deploy the reserve Dotarazi and
Duo it, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's a very cool idea, actually. All right, this is a minor one. I don't think this has come up for me yet, but not removing your opponent's disco balls because they can reactivate them and it's more reliable than shooting another disco ball.
I am yet to have a disco ball reactivated on me, and the one time I thought it was going to happen, it didn't happen, and that was at Border Bash against Nick, because if anyone's going to do that to me, it's going to be Nick.
I was a little short on orders.
Yep.
Not just with... Okay, and this is for disco balls in general, because yes, they can be reactivated, they also occupy board space.
Yeah.
And there can be reason that you should be, if you've got that free order, let's drop a template, like let's drop a chain rifle on disco ball, not just so they can't reactivate it, but so I can put a model there, because you can't until the disco ball's gone.
And by that same token, also consider maybe your own midfield camo markers. Don't let a disco ball be within template range of both a marker and a disco ball, because it is a valid target, and you'll lose your camo marker.
Yes.
All right, moving on to vision control strategies. We've talked about this a bit. It is smoke shooting. Smoke shooting is probably the most common and the best aggressive use of vision control you'll see in the game. To some degree, if you have a really strong MSV2 piece, smoke shooting can feel sometimes a little oppressive if the opponent doesn't have any ways of countering it properly. That just speaks to the level of strength that it has in N5, I think. I'm trying to think of like really like egregious MSV2 pieces, but things like Epsilon. I'm not sure if this is how it used to work, but how it works now is that smoke and mim stack. So the
I
-6.
think they always have.
I feel like in N3 there was a max of -6 for visual mods, but I'm talking 10 years ago at this point, I think.
Yeah.
But basically you can neg 12 someone with like not a Swiss Guard, a Nice or a Epsilon, or even any MSV ARO pieces with mimetism. The neg 6 stacks with the mimetism, which means that you're actually on really terrible odds. And it's almost always free shots or crit fishing for the active piece. And it's one of the best ways to get rid of things like TR bots. And it's why there's a proliferation of like Thunderbolt TR bots, because that 0 range stops the TR bot from being neg 12'd.
Yep.
We love the TR, but we love the Thunderbolt TR bot in this household.
Intruder, that's a really good one. Intruder neg 15 you with surprise attack, even though that's not possible.
You can stack up to -15, but once you've added everything else up, it caps it.
Yes.
So stacking up to -15, not bad, because you cancel out the range modifier if it's there.
Yeah.
And they still get neg 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Smoke your way into close combat. For a long time, depending on the meta of your tables, our tables are pretty close combat friendly, I want to say. But possibly the most reliable way to get into close combat is by using smoke or disco ballers. It's order intensive, but generally close combat is quite a bit more lethal than shooting against non-specialized close combat units. So things like Norkius or stuff like that can just delete a tag, or things like Shinobu, they bring their own smoke, or things like Fidays bring their own smoke. Spend a few orders, get the kill, and almost do it uncontested.
Yeah, even if you have your advance covered by terrain, smoke is a great way to get that last movement into melee.
Yeah.
Um,
And smoke plus stealth is kind of that like golden combo where like your opponent just isn't gonna have a fun time.
Yes, and then they wish they were playing more outs with 6 Sense.
Yep.
Smoke assisted combat jump. So it is illegal to drop a combat jump trooper. I'm not sure about parachutists, but combat jump at the bare minimum cannot be touching a smoke eclipse. I'm not sure about white noise.
they cannot go into a zero viz zone.
Zero viz zone.
And
does that mean a banshee can't land in white noise?
I believe,
but like a Hellcat
so,
can,
because it would be a zero viz zone.
That's hilarious.
So it would be self-inflicted and hilarious.
It's actually impossible for a banshee to drop into a white noise because
because they don't get white noise.
Yeah, there is no white noise in Kestrel, and it cannot be used as an ARO.
That's true. That's very true.
So get fucked.
Anyways, the point is you cannot drop, as Nick said, in a zero viz zone. However, you can use the smoke to block what's beyond the drop site.
Yeah. So if you know where the combat drop is planning to go, you can use smoke preemptively to limit lines of fire to what would be able to ARO it as it drops.
an MSV combat drop trooper cannot drop into smoke ivory because it is not the multispectral visor that removes the zero vis zone. It is receiving a BS attack that removes the zero vis zone. Unless I'm wrong.
MSV modifies the visual mod for the zero vis zone, not removing the zero vis zone.
Okay, I thought Nick was about to tell me I was wrong. I was about to.
No, you are correct. So like.
Ivory, you need to watch.
MSV.
You need to listen to the episode again.
What fucking weird niche? Like, this is like this is an impressive level of like niche for these rules of like. CB thought of this. I love it.
I suppose in their head they just went, "Why would a dude jetpack into a smoke grenade? Like that's just like that's like jumping off a cliff into rapids." It's like
yeah. So he hits the ground, and he like slips on the rock he doesn't see, just cracks his head and dies.
Yeah.
Like, if you like combat drop into fucking smoke, you need to like roll a d20, and like on a 19, just fucking dies.
CB, bring back scatter, bring back dispersion. I love that shit. All right, vision control strategies: slicing the pie without a pie or with an imaginary pie. So we use the smoke shooter if you put down your active gun piece and you made a mistake and you left him standing, and your opponent reserve drops 2 Soggarats staring at him, and you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? You get one of your boys to throw smoke so that now your guy only sees 1 Soggarat, and then you are allowed to take that fight properly, one at a time.
Yep. The tried and true method of dealing with your opponent's arrows. It saves you having to explain slicing the pie to a new player.
It makes so much sense, but it feels so unfair as a new player at the same time.
Yeah, like explaining slicing the pie to a new player is like one of the easiest ways to get them to give you that look like you just kicked a puppy. Like,
line laser is the easiest way I've found to do that.
Yeah,
because you just go as I go around this corner, my line of sight. As I go around this corner, my line of sight will slowly sweep, and it'll hit this model first, and I stop there.
Yep. Ivory says.
Yeah, but then they hit you with like the what?
Ivory says you can drop into white noise because it's not a zero vis zone. It's just treated as a zero vis zone. Doesn't that mean it's a zero vis zone? If it's treated as a zero vis zone, is that the same thing? Nope, apparently.
All right.
Okay.
So, on that, like slicing the pie around a corner, if you don't care about cover, you can potentially put a smoke zone out there and use that to bend a line of fire around where there wasn't an access to bend that line.
And could be a really cool thing to do with like a close combat situation of like a warband. You use the smoke, you slice the pie, you see one guy, you can then drop a template through the smoke, targeting potentially multiple guys, but only getting a BS ARO potentially back from one person, instead of just swinging the corner, taking 3 templates and they take 1, and you know whatever happens.
Yep.
All right. We still haven't solved the situation of if you can combat jump into white noise. It's so niche.
Yeah. I don't see any issue with it unless the model dropping has MSV or marksmanship.
I think it's specifically for
at that
MSV
point,
drop
I
troops.
still don't know if it is going to block it.
Yeah, I don't. Ivory, we're talking
I'd have
about specifically MSV drop troops, not non-MSV drop troops. There aren't very many MSV drop troops, I don't think.
Yeah. So I think it comes down to, I'm not sure, I'd have to look it up, but I'm not also sure if it's possible.
I want to err on the side of no,
do.
you can't, because that kind of makes sense. It's consistent with the rule set, but CB aren't the best at writing their rules to be super clear.
Right, the translation is the issue for the most part.
Yes.
But in the end, it can only come up if you do it to yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you don't do it to yourself, you don't have to question
Yeah.
whether you made the mistake and hurt yourself.
You literally
Absolutely.
need to do it to yourself.
I'm
Oh, God.
imagining a situation where someone white noises an objective and then tries to drop in, and your opponent's like, you can't do that. And you go, why? He goes, that's a zero vis zone. And you go, hold on.
You didn't say the magic word.
Hold on a second here. It's technically a different type of zone. And then you get in a big argument.
Yeah, that's going to come down to semantics, and I don't know if the semantics.
Yeah.
Kev says, I'd say no one can drop into any zone. It makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, fuck combat jump. Shit rule.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kev's running Rama right now, so no combat jump, no problem.
Exactly. No combat jump, no white noise. Who cares?
Yeah, no combat jump, no white noise, no good troops.
Wait, Rama gets Laxmi, doesn't they? There is white noise, I think. Anyway.
No, Laxmi is in
QK.
QK.
Oh, poor Rama.
Rama gets Valerie, the Aurelia, the extra total control.
Yeah, but no white
How
noise.
useful.
But no white noise, yes.
No white noise. They just get a whip 15 super hacker that's Mim 6 and camo and all the good stuffs. I love Tuareg so much, man. That's right. A whip 15 hacker with firewall. Oh. Anyways, does anyone have any final thoughts for us? Questions from the audience?
I'm so happy with like where vision control is in N5 now. It feels so much better than N4.
I agree. I think people were a little maybe not disillusioned, but a bit angry at the smoke changes. Because it seemed to make their playstyle harder to do. And whenever you try and force people to relearn how they play the game, they're going to get a little grumpy.
Well, yeah, like the Steel Phalanx players who are like, "Oh, my sectoral's ruined." It's like, no, you just need to learn how to play a fair game of. Done that.
Yes,
You just got to learn.
You just got to learn how to play an actual game of Infinity, and not just win dice.
Special die are really good for smoke grenade launches. That's
yes.
Special die are a great rule, just in general.
Yes.
Special die really makes up for the lack of plus range bands on both smoke grenades and grenade launchers now.
I will say though, special die is better for disposables, but if we're thinking N4 v N5, like smoke grenade launchers, like anything with unlimited ammo, purely a +1 dice is better.
Well, yeah. And with the special die, again, going back to like Morax, I've found more reason to take a smoke grenade launcher in places that I would never have.
Yeah.
Where I would have only taken smoke grenades.
Yeah.
Like that. So it's like that, just that OSNAT profile.
Yeah, like the OSNAT, I've even for a little while was running a smoke grenade launcher in a Dodarazi link.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Because it's BS11, but you've got a special die.
Yeah.
And you can shoot it halfway across the board as you run up.
Josh has been like singing the praises of Yojimbos and like the bike smoke grenade launcher in JSA, just because you get to the 24. It's better numbers at the longer range.
No, yeah, it's good. Yeah, like I don't know about you. Like it sounds like we all agree that vision control's a lot better in this edition. Disco ballers were a really great inclusion. I appreciate CB limiting the amount of Eclipse in the game as well. Eclipse is just doesn't. Eclipse grenades did not feel fair to play against a lot of the time.
The only thing they need to do now is limit mirror ball.
Yeah, mirror ball becomes disposable 2.
Disposable. I'll give him disposable 3. That's fine. Just make it disposable something.
Yeah, I think disco balls really hit a good balance point where they provide vision control, but you can't do it as a face-to-face.
Yeah, not being able to face-to-face with it makes it purely a vision control tool, which is good because there is a cost to including it in your list, because you don't get to double dip on utility.
Yes.
And even... I I'm not sure how viable the strategy is, but like there is potential setup for future turns. Like if something's going to die and he needed to put down a disco ball, you can shoot that disco ball. If your opponent doesn't destroy it, you could activate it and have the same effect as if you wanted it to. So it can have like an effect past the grave, although that is super nuanced and super never happening. It
is,
would
and I
be
think
hella big brain.
That's also very sectoral or army dependent, because while the availability of disco ball is fairly widespread, the availability of deactivators that can reasonably get good range to reactivate them for a reasonable number of orders is not evenly spread.
Yes.
Some armies got deactivators on their disco balls.
Yes.
Or random deactivators that are going to be in forward links with disco balls. And other armies, you've still got your engineer that's sitting back.
You can activate it through walls?
You can activate it through walls, but only within your zone of control.
Okay.
Though it does give another argument for the 8-point baggage, because that comes with an activator.
It does. It definitely does.
So if it reloads and then the model dies, it can.
Does the Evo bot come with come with a deactivator?
No,
it loses it.
Just the 8-point baggage bot, and I believe the forward observer bot has one as well.
The forward observer?
And then,
the sensor bot.
Yep, the sensor bot. And then after that, they're typically just engineers and random weird places now that disco balls.
Yeah, 100%. Hello, Donovan. Happy birthday for yesterday.
Hey.
Woo.
All right.
All right, guys. Oh, Lobo's a good one. Yeah. So
yeah, that was cool.
Learn. I want to say as a final thought, potentially, that learning vision control is almost as important as learning like appropriate gunfights. It's like one of the holy trinity of like gun, hack, vision control in like the three aspects of the game, unless you're playing Ariadne, in which case you just chop that shit in half and throw it away.
Yeah, and I was about to say, like the JSA players are like sitting in a corner punching the wall, like.
Yeah, but it's like one of the main.
CC is as good as gun.
In Infinity, the table is the third player. Vision control is using that player to your advantage by modifying it.
Yeah.
100%.
Is next episode going to be Pip My List?
It is.
It is.
It is?
Pimp,
Cool.
Pimp My List is a week from now. No more submissions, unfortunately, but...
Submissions have closed.
It's going to be fun.
I've had a rough time with one of these Kestrel lists that I've been given. They absolutely prove the adage that in Kestrel, you could just throw fucking darts at a board and not hit a miss in that faction.
Absolutely. All right. Until Pimp My List, I've been Tristan.
I've been Nick.
I've been Jordan.
Good night, everyone.